I loved the ghost stories they printed up of old, haunted New England, even though if I read them too late, they'd keep me up at night. Salem wasn't too crowded at this time of the year. As the winter was winding down, the streets were relatively quiet, and I found a parking spot on the main road easily. New England winters were not known for their hospitality to residents or tourists. I imagine the only sane visitors to New England during the winter were skiers and snowboarders, and since Salem didn't have any ski mountains, the tourists were gone for the season. The unmistakable scent of the sea calmed me before I reached the shore. The sun sparkled on the ocean like a blanket of diamonds. The breeze was calm enough that I stayed warm in my LL Bean coat and gloves, but still breezy enough that only a few other pedestrians walked along the shore. I took pleasure in the lack of crowds. Once spring was in full swing, the sidewalks of Salem would be chock-a-block with tourists clamoring to learn more about the witch city and the history of the Salem witch trials. The traditional witch museums and historical tours remained year after year, but new attractions sprang up all the time. Eclectic stores specialized in witchcraft items, wizard lore, and piracy. Ghost tours and other attractions designed to scare visitors popped up. After having a coffee and muffin at a cafe near the Salem Willows, I wandered down to a bookstore in the main part of town. I scanned the new releases in search of something to sink into while I did my laundry that afternoon. I know, a fascinating weekend.
What an oddly pleasant surprise. Fancy seeing you again, Kara.
Kara? Why did that name ring a bell? Oh shit! That was the fake name I used. Just once. With one person. Who had that faint British accent. I glanced up quickly to verify it was him. Those hazel eyes looking directly at me confirmed my hope or fear or whatever it was, as each emotion vied for dominance. For a moment, I lost my surroundings, mesmerized by his eye color. The earthy brown on the outer edge faded into a mossy green gradient closer to the pupil. Then I glanced away, since guilt flooded me next. Even though his band's website was public, I couldn't help but think I'd been snooping. I'm surprised you remembered. That took me long enough to find the sense to respond. Glancing away from his face wasn't enough to distract me as my gaze assessed his body. He wore faded jeans and a black t-shirt with a white skull on it. The shirt was just tight enough for me to make out a cut torso beneath. He was lean and cut, showing he worked out on a regular basis. A tattoo of the VC scrolled logo extended from under his sleeve. What other tattoos did he have hidden under his clothes?
How could I not? You made it so difficult to get even a fake name out of you.
He smiled, and it made me blush for reasons I didn't quite understand. What I did know was that he still looked hot as hell. Even hotter now than he did on stage. A literary bad boy in a bookstore. And he smelled even more intoxicating. Although the scent of his masculinity and the sweat from playing on stage had elicited an involuntary sensual response from me the first time we met, now I found it even more difficult not to bury my face in his neck. I would inhale the heady fragrance of him, the faint scent of soap lingering on him. I'd bet it was Irish Spring. Act normal. Act normal. What can I say? I recovered quickly. I'm a private person. I don't give out my personal information to someone I just met. Not even to computer geeks who double as rock stars. I flashed him a smile, which was a mistake. He looked at me so intensely that I forgot my intention of flirting as my mind now swarmed with questions. Time sped up and slowed all at once. Why was he staring at me that way? Did he realize the effect he was having upon me? What the heck was happening? Whatever it was, I didn't like this feeling of being out of control. I had to break the eye contact to gain some perspective on the situation. But when I glanced down, I made the unfortunate mistake of zooming in on his crotch, which threw me off kilter in a different way.
Find anything promising?
He asked. My cheeks burned. Oh, God, yes. There is so much promise right there. I gazed at him again.
A book,
he clarified.
Did you find any promising reads?